Welcome to Karma's Harvest. Ilara didn't want a partner, she wanted a dependent. A man so tethered to her that the very idea of walking away would be physically impossible. But she would soon learn that the chains we forge for others often become the walls of our own prison. What happens when the person you've rendered helpless is the only one who can save your life? She thought she was securing her future. But in reality, she was drafting a recipe for her own undoing. Have you ever wondered if the person standing right next to you is staying because of love, or because you've stolen their ability to run? Julian was once a man of vibrant energy, a successful architect who climbed mountains and commanded boardrooms with a sharp, infectious wit. That was the man Ilara fell in love with. But as her own insecurities grew, that same brilliance began to terrify her. She was certain that a man like Julian, talented, handsome, and free, would eventually realize he could do better than her. To Ilara, love wasn't about growth. It was about possession. And so the treatment began. It started with a single drop in his morning coffee, a potent, tasteless sedative designed to induce a subtle, persistent lethargy. She told herself she was doing it for them, to keep their world small, safe, and private. Month by month, the spark in Julian's eyes began to dim. The man who used to wake up at dawn to jog now struggled to climb the stairs. His career crumbled as he missed deadlines and lost his focus, his ambition, dissolving into a permanent chemical fog. Friends stopped calling, and his family was kept at a distance by Ilara's constant excuses about his mystery illness. She became his sole caregiver, his cook, his world. She watched with a twisted sense of satisfaction as he became a hollow shell, entirely reliant on her just to function. He was finally hers and hers alone. She had achieved the ultimate loyalty, or so she thought, through the slow erosion of his soul. The silence of their secluded home was shattered on a Tuesday night. The rain was drumming against the windows when the glass in the back door exploded. A hooded figure, desperate and violent, stormed into the living room. Ilara screamed, dropping her glass of wine as the intruder grabbed her by the hair, demanding the combination to the floor safe. She was struck, thrown against the wall, and pinned down by a man who had nothing to lose. Through the blur of her own terror and tears, she looked toward the armchair in the corner. There sat Julian. "Julian, help me, do something!" she shrieked, her voice cracking with pure desperation. She expected the man she once knew to roar to life, to let adrenaline override the drugs and fight for the woman he loved. But Julian didn't move. He didn't even flinch. He sat there, slumped in his favorite chair, staring at the scene with heavy, glazed eyes. The intruder looked at Julian, then back at Ilara, laughing at the pathetic sight of the unmoving husband. Ilara watched in horror as Julian's eyelids drooped, his expression one of absolute chilling indifference. He watched the entire struggle as if it were a distant, boring play. The very drugs she had used to ensure he would never leave her had stripped away his will to act, even to save the woman, who was being broken right in front of him. She had prayed for a husband who would never move from her side. And in her hour of greatest need, the universe granted her that exact wish with brutal precision. She got the unmoving loyalty she paid for, but she lost the protection she so desperately needed. When the intruder finally fled with the jewelry, leaving Ilara bruised and trembling on the floor, the room fell into a deafening silence. Hours later, when the police arrived, and the paramedics were treating her, an officer sat down with Julian. The officer asked him why he didn't intervene, why he didn't even try to call for help, while his wife was being attacked just 3 feet away. Julian slowly turned his head, a faint ghost of a smile, touching his lips as he looked at Ilara, who was watching him from across the room with wide, terrified eyes. "I didn't want to upset her," Julian whispered, his voice calm and terrifyingly hollow. "She always told me to stay put. I was just being a good, still husband, just like she taught me." In that moment, Ilara realized that the fog in his eyes wasn't just the drugs. It was a mirror reflecting back her own cruelty. But the true horror was only beginning. Did Julian really not have the strength to move? Or had he simply decided that watching her suffer was the only way to finally feel something again? The shadows in their home are growing longer, and the mystery illness is about to take a much darker turn. What did Julian do with the rest of the sedatives? Ilara had hidden in the pantry, and what was found in the recording of the security camera, Ilara forgot. She installed? The harvest is far from over, and the next crop of consequences is about to be reaped. You won't want to miss the chilling conclusion in part 2. Make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on, because the truth about Julian's stillness is more terrifying than anyone imagined. Join us next time on Karma's Harvest.